Hey everyone, this is Nitro. So this is going to be a sponsored video by Ebonia Zane.
なんてあなたの評価少しは上がりましたわ。
And for this particular video, what he requested was that I talk about the top 10 must-have characters in Langrisser Mobile. I could not narrow it down to just 10, so I actually ended up covering 15 heroes that are worth building. Actually, I think 16 in fact, as of this time. But this more or less is the optimal characters I feel to build to be able to clear PvE content, specifically Ancient Beckoning, and it uses the minimum number of SSRs possible. So other than for the SSR section, you only need roughly 12 heroes that are SSR to be able to clear all of them at S rank or higher, in fact. And then on the right side, I added some additional PvE and PvP heroes that I would recommend for building. So here we go. Let's go over this in detail. So the 5 battles of Ancient Beckoning are Nidhogg, Fenrir, Sleipnir, Jormungandr, and Hugin and Munit. You can see that from this image, I tried to use as many SR heroes as possible, as well as a combination of, let's say, heroes that can be used in multiple fights. So let's go over it line by line, I suppose. I'm going to skip going over the SRs and repeats, but I'll talk about the heroes that you need to build for Ancient Beckoning, and I'll talk about the PvE characters and PvP characters. Okay. So Nidhogg will require pretty much a princess party, since that's the recommended faction. And for that, I would recommend having Lana, Rachel, Luna, Yulia, Liana, and Tieris. Okay. I'm not going to go into them in great detail individually, right? Lana and Rachel would be magic DPS. Yulia is also magic DPS. Luna would be just a great character in general. She's pretty much a must-have in my opinion for PvE content, and she's strong in PvP. And then Liana and Tieris, nothing really needs to be said about them. They're both just amazing heroes in general. Now, I have characters highlighted in either red or blue. Red means that they should be brought up to 6 stars, and blue means they can pretty much be usable at 5 stars. Yes, bringing them up to 6 stars would be ideal, but if you don't have the time to grind them, you can leave them at 5 stars. Okay. So moving on. For the Fenrir battle, you would only need to build 3 additional heroes: Bernhard, Bozel, and Juggler. Okay. Moving on to Sleipnir. Sleipnir would require Leon and Elwyn. Okay. Actually, I wouldn't say they're required, but both heroes are amazing for clearing PvE content in general, like challenges, like Eternal Temples, stuff like that. So I recommend them, right? And it just fits into Sleipnir very smoothly as well. Both of these heroes, though, need to be 6 stars to be used, right? Elwyn at 6 stars gets a 100% chance to heal. Leon, for maximum damage, should be 6 stars. He might actually be usable at 5 stars now that there is the class mastery enchants and all that stuff. But I would say, if you're going to use Leon, raise him up to 6 stars. It just makes sense, right? The other reason I would recommend building up Leon in general is because I use him in pretty much every video I create for PvE content. Given that's the case, if you really want to follow my videos, you're going to need a Leon, okay? So, we move on to Jormungandr, and because of the previous uses of the SRs, no character actually needs to be built for Jormungandr as a result to get S rank, right? You're going to use Juggler, you're going to use Luna, and you're going to use Tieris in this fight. There's a few SRs that you might have to build, like Silver Wolf and Narm, but that it is what it is there. Okay. And finally, we move on to Hugin and Munit battle, where I recommend you have Landius as the tank there. Okay. Everyone else in that battle has already been built up from some of those previous fights, except for Matthew, right? But Matthew is a solid character that should be built anyways. And with this, you will have all the characters necessary to do the Ancient Beckoning fights, and this is really just 6 characters, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 characters in total. 12 SSRs, which actually isn't too bad when you consider it. Okay. In addition to this, of these 12 SSRs, a significant number of them are very meta characters that can be used in your Apex Arena box. Okay. For example, characters that are very good in Apex Arena would still be, let's say, Yulia, Luna, Rachel, Liana, Tierra. So that's 5. Bozel, Juggler, Landius. Okay. So that would be 5, 6, 7, 8 characters that fit very well into an Apex PvP box. You know, Elwyn can also be used. That would make 9. But truthfully speaking, Elwyn's lack of mobility is a serious issue now in Apex Arena. So, you know, most top level players will have moved Elwyn out of their box. Okay. But if you're aiming to get, let's say, into gold, a 6-star Elwyn is still very, very usable. You know. In that sense, Yulia is also starting to be phased out as well, just like Elwyn, due to just having 3 mobility. But once again, both of them can still be used, and that gives you 11 solid characters for PvP. So you would... sorry, not 11. Let me recount that. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 solid characters for your Apex Arena box. Okay. So, those are 9 characters. Then you would add 2 healers, which is usually Iris and Chloe. That gives you 11 characters for your Apex Arena box. Then the other 2 characters I would recommend you add is Zerida and Listel. Okay? That would make 13 characters for your Apex Arena box. And at that point, you would only need to add 2 more characters and you're good to go. You know, if you're lacking characters, maybe throw in Varna, for example, because she can AoE and retreat and so on. So that right there, you know, means you would only need to build 1 more. But truthfully speaking, those last 2 slots, I would generally say you would be building more recent characters that you see on the upcoming banners, like Ares and so on, Deeplit, those kind of very powerful characters that are being released more recently, right? And that gives you, but ultimately, what building up this kind of setup of characters, a lot of them fall into both PvP and PvE meta. So that's why it really helps. Okay, so with that covered, the only remaining characters I would need to talk about is the PvE section, right? And for the PvE section, I highly recommend building up Ledin and Young Jessica. So Ledin is highlighted in blue, which means you can leave him at 5 stars. And you see me use my 5-star Ledin very consistently in tons of videos, so that's why I highly recommend him. There's a bunch of challenges where he became absolutely critical to have, so it just really helps. In addition to that, what I personally find is that Ledin and Landius are pretty much required for the endgame time rifts. You're going to, well, or to be more specifically, you're going to want 2 tanks for endgame time rifts, especially if you want to get all those feats, right? So having a combination of Ledin and Landius will make that possible. Yeah. Is Ledin 100% required? Probably not. It's very possible you can use Juggler and Landius to get those clears, but I imagine that would be more difficult because Juggler just doesn't have very good counterattack damage, for example. Yeah. But in a lot of ways, you can say you don't necessarily need a Ledin, but I would recommend him. Other than that, I would also recommend that you build Young Jessica. And Young Jessica is highlighted in teal, which I am going to mean she's usable even at 4 stars. Okay. The reason I recommend you build Young Jessica is simply because of her extreme range. She has 5 range when she's in her goddess state, her avatar mode with Divine Bestowment. That means she can launch ridiculously far range attacks, and these attacks are almost always outside of the attack range of the characters you're fighting against. So in those kind of battles, the fact that she can attack the enemy outside of their range, and these are usually challenges, means she's just offering you free damage without any chance of counterattack. In a lot of these challenges, she can basically solo the battle if you have her built. So that's why I would recommend Young Jessica for PvE content. You know, just makes a lot of battles much, much easier. Finally, for PvP content, well, the 2 I recommend there is Zerida and Listel. Zerida and Listel are both characters that you should have built very, very early on, and they remain incredibly, almost ridiculously viable, right? Yes, they have counters now. For example, Zerda is very much countered by, let's say, Claret potentially, and Listel is very much countered by the rise of so many characters with Gospel providing immunities and so on, right? You know, Liana, Rachel, Deedlit, they all offer Gospel. So you can say Listel's power is starting to drop. But despite that, all three still have incredible utility overall, okay? So finally, what kind of party would you use for PvE content in general? Well, if you had to pick 5 characters in general, the way this would work is you'd usually pick Landius or Ledin as your tank. You would throw in Tieris for sure as the healer. You might throw in Liana as for Act Again, maybe, okay? You might throw in Sophia for Rewind. You'll throw in magic, whenever you need magic damage, you have Lana, Yulia, and Rachel. 3 magic damage dealers. You also have Bozo for a 4th one, okay? And then whenever you need physical damage, you have Leon, Luna, Elwyn. So there's a wide mix of characters, you have high numbers of physical damage dealers, you have high numbers of magic damage dealers, and everything will just go smoothly, especially if you have your tank, Tieris, Liana, and Sophia for healing, right? And that is basically everything I want to cover in this video. This setup gives you everything that you would potentially need to clear any kind of challenge battle, any kind of in PvE, and it gives you everything it gives you a very solid setup to start your PvP party, right? So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this video useful to you overall. And if you have any comments or questions or concerns, you can leave them in the comment section below. This is by no means the absolutely optimal, PvP setup, but it gives you a solid base to start, is what I mean. Okay, I'm not going to do a ideal PvP meta simply because the meta changes with every new hero release. Every time there's a major update, that meta changes. Okay, so I hope you found this video useful to you, and on that note, Nitro out.